Hey everybody, I am back at it with another skincare video. It seemed like everyone really liked the video I did on hyaluronic acid last time that I did this. So I'm just gonna break down sunscreens for you today because that is an essential part in any skincare routine. So we'll get into all of that, why you need it, what they are, and how to look for the right one. First of all, if you don't know me, my name is Darby. I'm a licensed master esthetician, and that gives me a lot of knowledge on skincare and how to help everybody with different skin types and different skin conditions and concerns. So I feel like I've got a lot of knowledge that I can share in helping you find the right SPF for your skin. So if you like this kind of thing, go ahead and thumbs up the video and leave me suggestions for other skincare ingredients or skin concerns that you'd like me to discuss down below, and we'll do that. Let's just jump right into it. First of all, I think that everyone at this point is pretty well aware of the importance of sunscreen. More than anything else, the sun is going to contribute to premature aging in the skin. That is just how it goes. Even if you're not at the age where you're concerned with aging yet, those effects of not wearing sunscreen for so many years are really going to catch up to you in the future. So it's something you need to think about, even if you're not, concerned with aging and wrinkles and sun damage and all of that, because it will make a huge difference in the future. You always want to think about being preventative with your skincare instead of corrective, because if we're working on corrective measures, it's going to be a lot more difficult, a lot more expensive for sure, and just more stressful too. It's easier to prevent and keep your skin healthy than it is to go ahead and correct unhealthy skin. So everyone needs sunscreen, okay? Those UV rays can go into our skin and break down collagen, which collagen is a protein that is in our skin, and our skin creates less and less of it over time. What it does is it helps plump up the skin and give it a full kind of more voluminous look. So that's why when you get older, you see a lot of that kind of sagging in the skin. It also breaks down our elastin, which is the elasticity of our skin. That's going to happen no matter what over time, just because as we get older, we start to age. But we can do so much with our sun care, our skin care, to prevent any sort of premature aging, and that's what I think the best value of sunscreen is. Even if you have skin concerns like acne or other inflammatory disorders like rosacea, keratosis pilaris on the skin in like young teens, then you still need sunscreen because it's still giving you that overall skin health benefit. But also the sun will cause inflammation in our skin. So if you're dealing with acne, rosacea, like I said, keratosis pilaris, those are all inflammatory disorders. So they're only going to be prolonged by the sun if we aren't staying protected from it. So let's go into what SPF actually means. So SPF means the sun protection factor. It represents the amount of protection given to the skin through that product. So one important thing to know is that the sun protection factors, the SPF value, the number associated with that SPF only refers to UVB rays, which are the burning rays. There are also UVA rays that are the aging rays. So we'll go into what that number means and how it only applies to UVB rays, but there are sunscreens that you can get that will cover both, and that's what you want to look for. So we'll get into how to find those in just a minute here. I'm gonna read now just straight from a textbook on skincare really quick. So it says about SPF, the value with the SPF. SPF, independently of its number, is an individual's protection value against UVB. So that's the burning rays. It represents the time it takes an individual with unprotected skin to develop erythema, which is redness in the skin, multiplied by the value of SPF. Thus, it provides a measurement of how long an individual can stay in the sun without developing erythema, so the redness. For example, if the skin develops erythema, the redness, within 10 minutes of sun exposure and the SPF value of the sunscreen is 30, then the erythema will be delayed by a factor of 30. Thus, 30 times 10 minutes is 300 minutes or 5 hours. So that's what your SPF value means. If you have SPF 30 and you typically laying out in the sun without sunscreen would get red in about 10 minutes, then you multiply that by 30, the value of your SPF, and you've got 300 minutes before you'll see the redness in your skin or the erythema. Does that kind of make sense? If you have questions about that, leave them down below. So this means that it really varies person to person. If you're a skin type Fitzpatrick like 1 or 2, that's very fair skin, you'll develop redness way faster than somebody who's a higher Fitzpatrick or a darker skin type like a 4, 5, or 6. So your SPF won't protect you as long as somebody with darker skin or somebody who just doesn't get redness as quickly. The number value on your SPF can also tell tell you the percentage of UVB rays that are blocked by the sunscreen. So an SPF 10 blocks about 90% of UVB rays, and then it goes up from there. SPF 15 blocks 92, and then SPF 30 blocks 97% of UVB rays. Anything beyond that, and you're not gonna get too much of an increase. So that's why I think personally that SPF 30 is perfect for everyday use, or anything higher, but again, not super necessary that you go up to like SPF 70 or anything like that, because it's only gonna block so many of those rays anyways. And the other issue with going up too high with your value is you start to, I think that you get almost confident that you're not going to be burnt or the sun's not going to affect your skin whatsoever. There's no way. So then you start laying out too long or spending too much time outside, and then you do end up with a lot more sun damage because you feel like you're extra protected when you're really not that much more protected than you would be at a 30. Does that kind of make sense? Okay, and then there's also two forms of sunscreens using different ingredients. There's chemical sunscreens and there's physical sunscreens. So chemical sunscreens they actually sink into the skin, absorb the rays of the sun, convert them into heat, and then expel them from the skin. And then there's physical sunscreens that more sit on top of the surface of the skin and reflect those rays away from the skin. So there's different pros and cons between the two. For chemical sunscreens, the pros are that it does sink into the skin, so you're not left with like a white cast or anything like that. But the cons are that sometimes those can be a little bit more irritating because they're actually sinking into the skin and they're letting those rays of the UV rays sink into the skin as well and converting them to heat, which can also be a little bit irritating too. So typically I suggest people avoid those unless you don't have irritations to sunscreen or that kind of thing. There are a few different ingredients that make up a chemical sunscreen. The most common are probably oxybenzone and avobenzone. And some of those things are the ones that people are saying, oh, they get into your bloodstream, they're bad for you, which I think that there are still testings that we need to do for sunscreens to further know the effects that they have. But as of right now, no studies have shown that there are any negative effects of these sunscreens. So they're nothing to be afraid of, but I do feel like steering towards the physical sunscreens will give you less irritation to the skin overall. So just food for thought. So the physical sunscreens or the mineral sunscreens are typically zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. Zinc oxide is what gives that really white cast. So the white cast and that thick feeling can be a con for physical sunscreens, but I feel like there are a lot that you can find now that don't leave that feeling or look to the skin. Here's what you need to look for when getting a sunscreen. The first thing you have to look for is broad spectrum, because what broad spectrum means is it's going to cover UVA and UVB rays. If you're looking at just any old sunscreen that says SPF 50 or whatever, remember that that only attributes to the UVB rays, which are the burning rays. It doesn't attribute anything to the UVA rays, which are aging rays. So you really need both. So if you look for something that says broad spectrum sunscreen on it, then you're gonna get protection on both ends. It's gonna cover all the UV rays that could penetrate and affect your skin. You also might want to look for something more of a physical sunscreen. Again, this is sort of dependent on your specific skin type and the level of sensitivity that your skin has, but I feel like a lot more people gravitate towards those physical sunscreens because they are less irritating to the skin. However, sometimes you need a mix to really be broad spectrum. There's not a lot of fully physical sunscreens that are broad spectrum. So sometimes you have to have a little bit of oxybenzone, which is your chemical sunscreen, along with zinc and titanium dioxide, zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. So that's something to look for right there as well. Look for SPF 30 or higher. SPF 30 is going to cover 97% of the rays, and from there it doesn't increase too much more. Nothing's going to cover 100%. So you're just going to have to look for 30 or higher, and make sure that especially if you're out in the sun that you reapply. If you're just doing a typical day, you're running a couple errands, so you're getting like from your house to the car, walking from the parking lot to a store or that kind of thing, you're fine to just apply once and go about your day. But if you're going to be spending a lot of time outside, your kids are in sports or you're going on hikes, walks, that kind of thing, you definitely want to reapply. The hard thing about reapplying is a lot of people will end up putting makeup on, so you can't really go in with your liquid sunscreen and apply it over top. But they do have powder physical sunscreens that are like a skin tone that you can brush onto the skin. I'm gonna link one down below that's on Amazon. It's fairly cheap. It's just a mineral sunscreen and you can just brush it on over your makeup. A lot of people will leave theirs in their purse or in the car because they're really travel friendly. They kind of are in a tube like this, but a little bit thicker. You take the top off and then the brush will come out and the powder will just come out of the brush and you brush it on and then you just close it back up and you're good to go. So really great, travel friendly, not messy, and a good way to reapply throughout the day. I say if you're gonna be spending time in the sun, you wanna reapply every 2 hours, no matter what you're using, just to be safe. Even if you have SPF 30 and you usually don't get red for 10 minutes, you should have 5 hours of protection. It's just better to be safe. Always. And a little extra SPF isn't gonna hurt nobody, so you should do it. I'll link a couple of my other favorites down below. The Image skincare sunscreens are amazing. They are a little bit of a mix of chemical and physical sunscreens. That's what gives them the broad spectrum, but they do have a version that's tinted. They have a version that's more matte, so it's gonna absorb any excess oil in the skin. They have a hydrating formula. If you're a little bit more dry skin or mature skin, that one would be good for you. And an SPF 50 for like post-procedure or just if you're going to be out and about, that kind of thing. So those I would really recommend. I'll link that in the powder sunscreen down below. The other thing you want to look for is when you apply sunscreens, you want to make sure you're applying enough, because if you're not applying enough, you're not going to get the protection that you need. Honestly, you have to apply quite a bit, and that's why it's good to have a good formula that's formulated specifically for your face, especially so that it doesn't leave a thick film or white cast on your skin when you're applying so much. You really need about a nickel to a quarter size amount. A lot of people will take the SPF and trail it along and like do a little line along their pointer finger. That's how much you need for face and neck. So if that's a good measurement for you, go ahead and do that. Just like a small line from here to there, and then apply that all over. You really don't want to massage it in too much. You want to just apply it all over and gently press it into the skin. If you're massaging it, you're going to break up those molecules and it's not going to be as effective. Another thing I get a lot of questions about with my clients is, well, not even questions, but they just say, oh, I have SPF in my makeup, so I'm good. That does not count. A lot of times there's really not a lot of protection in there. First of all, they're not broad spectrum, and you're not going to apply nearly enough to get the SPF that you need. If you're applying a quarter size drop of foundation to your skin, then you can get the sun protection you need. But who in their right mind is applying a quarter sized amount of foundation to their skin? Nobody. So you're not getting any protection from that. Let me just tell you right there, you don't have a thick enough layer on the skin. There's no way, there's just no way nobody's applying that much, because that's dumb. I wish I wasn't going anywhere and I would show you how crazy that would look, but I'm going to work, so I can't do that. Further than that, mixing your SPF with any other products is going to dilute it and it won't be effective. Even if you're using it with another SPF product, it really needs to be just one formulation of SPF in a nice thick layer on your skin, not mixed in with another SPF or a moisturizer or anything like that. You can layer those things, but keep in mind, if you're layering SPF products, you're only going to get the SPF protection of the highest value. It's not going to layer on more and more SPF coverage, if that makes sense. Okay, I'm trying to think if there's any other questions that I commonly get, but I think that I about covered everything. I hope that this was helpful for you and that it all made sense. Let me know if you have any other questions about sunscreens down below and any other like ingredients or products you want me to go over in my videos. I think that's it. I should really make like a script for these videos because there's so much information. I don't want to miss anything and I feel like I get rambly, so I'm just trying to make sure I covered everything, but I think I did. So thanks for watching. Hopefully this was helpful, and yeah, I'll see you next time.